Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 14 now of the D League podcast. It feels like we haven't been here in forever. A much needed bye week for the co-host, for the producer. These aren't easy to stay on top of. I'll be honest. It's like all of a sudden it's Tuesday again or Wednesday, or you're running late into Thursday morning. And you're like, oh shit, like we got to record the podcast. So a bye week last week, apologies, but a much needed rest for us, I would say.
Yeah, I'm feeling nice and refreshed, but yeah, it is exhausting work. And if we were getting paid for it, it'd be one thing, but this is unpaid work on the side. We're going to take our bye weeks when we get them.
Yeah, well, I'm collecting all the YouTube ad revenue. I just haven't dished that out to anyone else. So yeah,
and then season, so split that up.
When you're getting this many views, and this much traction, YouTube's gonna pay. So, anyways, we'll cover the last two Lions games since we didn't touch on the one 2 weeks ago, the Thanksgiving Day one. It was ugly. It honestly somehow looked worse than the week before that, which was the Bears game that somehow we miraculously won. And Thursday, Thanksgiving Day against the Packers at home, we look terrible.
Yeah, it's just Thanksgiving tradition for the Lions to lose on that day. The moon was aligned wrong, I guess, too. Mm-hmm. Saw that stat floating around, which is just ridiculous. I don't know how you even find that stat to begin with, but someone did. It's disappointing Thanksgiving Day loss. But I mean, the Packers are very hot right now. They just beat a tough Chiefs team on Sunday Night Football. Jordan Love's balling. They're sneaking up on us in the North. But Saints game, it was a great bounce back. I mean, the first 7 minutes of that game, it must have been what a Ravens fan felt like when we played them. Watching that was just awesome. And, our defense started to slip up a little bit, and thought for a second, same old Lions are going to come out and we're going to blow that lead and lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's never easy to win in the NFL. Getting off to that early lead, I'm like, I was pumped, but at the same time, I was like, oh, here we go. And sure enough, you kind of started to feel the momentum turn. But you know what? Like, I mean, we've said it all year. The same old Lions somehow find a way to lose that game. And I don't care how we're getting it done. I don't care if it's 2-0 and our only score is a safety. I don't care if it's 49-0. Like, just win, and that's what they're doing. So 9-3 for the first time since the 60s, I think. Can't be mad. And that was a good start to a little bit of a road stretch. I think we're at Chicago. We might go back home for Minnesota, but then we're at Dallas, at Minnesota, maybe. Or do I have that reversed?
You're missing a Broncos game in there.
Is that home or away? That's home, right?
I believe that's home.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So at Bears and home against Broncos, and then
I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, there's a couple
at Bears, home against Broncos, then at Vikings, at Cowboys, home against Vikings to end it.
Yeah.
So tough little stretch there.
Yeah, at Cowboys will be fun. I'm curious to see how we stack up against them. But anyways,
I think that'll be the battle for third place in the NFC right there. Not that the Cowboys can get third place in the seeding, but I think that right there will prove who the third best team in the NFC is heading into the playoffs.
Well, we're right there with the Niners, aren't we? Don't they have 9 wins as well?
Yeah, I'm not talking record book. I'm just talking like the eye test.
Okay.
I still think the 49ers, I think, still would beat the Lions, and the Eagles, I think, would be a tough matchup as well. But I think after that, I think we can take on anyone in the North or in the NFC.
Yeah, we'll see. It's exciting, and the season's slowly dwindling down, as is the fantasy football season. I mean, here we are, pre-week 14, last week of the regular season, and man, we have some awesome matchups on the horizon. But let's jump into last week's recap. There were some good games. The Mad Ants, we'll start with them. I mean, they got the better of you. Jake mentioned that the podcast took a week off, and it looked like Clark Bar's football team did too. But when you have the 1 seed in your division locked up, I mean, what else is there to play for?
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfect. There was nothing to play for on my end, just bragging rights at this point. Still not a good week for my squad. Would have liked to see them put up at least the century mark this week, but Herbert had a rough go at it and a couple other players, and it's just a disappointing week for my squad. But like you said, I got the gold division on lock, and I'm not my players don't need to perform for another 2-3 weeks, so that's fine. Get your rest. I got my rest this week. I'm ready to get back at it. Hopefully my players feel the same come round 2 of the playoffs. Mad Ants, huge win for them. They now have a fighting chance for the playoffs. Get into that later, but great win from them. Great performance. Shout out to the Mad Ants. Good week from you guys.
Yeah, and on to our second game. It was actually the other 1 seed in the Maroon Division this time. Lang's football team putting up, I think, their second straight 150-plus point game. They put up 160 something last week, and then this week put up 151 against the Dust Balls, who had a chance to clinch a playoff spot this week. Unfortunately, only put up 73 points. But if you're gonna have a bad game, this is the week to do it against an opponent that puts up 150. Because like, how bad does it feel if Mudge puts up like 130, but then
right.
Ashton puts up 150? So Denver still has a chance. Their fate still lies in their own hands. And I mean, it's all up to them to go lock up the playoffs. They didn't do it last week, but they have a chance to do it this week. So great week by Ashton, man. His team, Tyreek Hill, come on.
Tyreek Hill is just a cheat code. Every time I see that the peace sign come from Ashton, just know that something dumb happened and he ripped off another 60, 70 yarder. I mean, this dude, I wish he would be in the conversation for MVP. I know he's probably circling around there, but I think I saw somewhere that Brock Purdy is now the favorite to win MVP. And I just don't think that's fair when guys like Tyreek Hill, who is on pace to break the all-time single season receiving record, I think he deserves it more. But
QB award.
Great performance by Ashton, locked up the overall number 1 seed, and he'll have a 3-point buffer every week of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's big. Overall 1 seed. And I mean, we talked about you not having anything to play for. If Ashton could have potentially, lost and you would have won, I think you would have had a chance to maybe lock up that one. But regardless, great week by Ashton. And that brings us to our next matchup here with the Golden Taint Warriors with the 111 beating out Mark's Flying Circus with 94. I mean, wasn't really a ton to go on here. Josh is eliminated. Mark has clinched. So a good game, a good win for Josh. I mean, fighting for pride, I guess, at this point. But, other than that, really not a ton to say about this one.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Josh, you've had a great last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, it's just too little too late. And hopefully you can carry this momentum into the consolation ladder in next season.
Yeah. And so on to our next matchup. We had the Ogama DU Jobbers putting up 110 against Justin's Southside Sad Silly Sliders. Another tough week for the Sliders without their quarterback this week, so they had to slot in a backup, and they almost break the century mark. Unfortunately, not enough to get it done. And for my squad and the DU Jobbers, really a huge win to just keep us in it this week. Like, give ourselves a chance and give us something to play for in week 14. So a big win. And man, I really, I can't say I wouldn't want it any other way, because I would have loved to have clinched a playoff spot, but to be playing for one, it feels real good rather than being on the outside without even being able to look in.
Yeah, it was a must-win game from your squad. You went in, took care of business, and now this week your squad will need to do the same while also rooting for the Sliders to take care of business on their end. You gave yourself a chance week 14, and that's all you can ask for. So best of luck next season or next week. Sorry. We'll see if
you better watch it.
Almost said next season, but
yeah, I heard
you're still alive. You're still alive this season, so we'll see next week.
For sure. And our last matchup, last but very not least, but one with, some pretty serious implications. I mean, Turn Your Head and Golf, 111, beating Chuck's Crumb Bombs with 89. And we had Chuck on, and we never did check this. We said we were going to check it, but we had Chuck on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the curse of the podcast. And ever since he came on, it feels like he's just been snowballing, and another fairly poor performance from his team when you consider, he was the highest scorer in the league for a good 3 to 4 week stretch. So, that puts Chuck, believe it or not, kind of on the outside looking in too. He has to win this coming week to get into the playoffs. And Trent, with the win, secures himself a playoff spot, first year in the league, and Trent's going to the postseason. So good for him. That's pretty damn exciting.
Yeah, middle of the season, his team was down a little bit. We thought it was pretty inconsistent, but I mean, past couple weeks he's came on and he said just locked up a spot. And Crumb Bums, unfortunately, I think I hope they did not peak too early, but people are asking, did they peak too early? We were very quick to anoint them the number one spot, and ever since then it's been downhill. And I mean, believe it or not, I mean, Chuck has to win this week to get in. If he loses, then he's going to be in the consolation ladder. And I mean, what a fall from grace that'd be. That'd be tough, but still got a chance. Week 14, just win and you're in.
Yeah, week 14 is going to be awesome. I can't wait. But let's get over to the power rankings and we can kind of break down what everybody needs to happen here in week 14 to get into the playoffs. So we can go through 1 and 2 quick. Langs football team 1, Clark Bars football team 2. We've seen this for probably 90% of the season with these two teams at 1, both locked up the respective 1 seeds in each division. Anything you want to add there? I feel like these have been the 2 best teams all year, and here they are week 14, kind of maintaining that greatness.
Yeah, I'm happy that I'm here. I'm happy to be part of the conversation of the top 2 spots. I'm surprised, honestly, like you said, like week 3, week 4, this was the top 2, and it's been the top 2 for pretty much the entire year, besides when we had Chuck make a little surprise at number 1. So for both of our squads to keep up this consistency and keep winning, I'm pretty shocked to see it, to be honest with you. I thought one of us maybe might fall off, injury, you never know what could happen, but these were the 2 best teams heading into week 2 or 3, and they're the 2 best teams heading into the playoffs. Excited to see what happens. I'm a little nervous if the matchup happens, not going to overlook my first matchup. But yeah, Langs football team got a great squad.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in the playoffs, but the Langs football team is clicking on all cylinders right now. So
he's really gonna get his first trophy.
What a nightmare it would be for him if like his team just decides to put up a stinker in the second round. Oh, he would be so sad. But he's got a great team, and I think he has a great shot to win it. So
yeah.
On to number 3, Mark's Flying Circus. He's kind of dabbled between 3 and like 6 for most of the year, and finds himself going into the final week of the regular season at that 3 spot. Can actually lock up the 3 seed with a win, does have to win, and then a loss from Chuck and a loss from Trent. Mark will get the 3 seed in the playoffs behind yourself and Ashton.
Yeah, Mark, he's, like you said, hovered around that 3 to 6 range all year. He's heating up at the right time. Did just come off a loss, but still think he's got a good squad. And I mean, his spot's locked up for the playoffs, like you said. It's just at this point he's playing for seeding, which is a pretty big advantage, because if he wins and those other 2 things happen, and he gets the 3 seed, that's a 3-point buffer round 1. So that would be very beneficial. So he still is playing for something this week. But moving on to number 4 spot, we got Turn Your Head in Golf. Like you mentioned earlier, he's locked up a playoff spot in his first year in the league, which bravo, Trent. But I think he could lock up the overall number 3 seed if he just wins. So Mark needs a win and then losses from Chuck and Trent. Whereas Trent, if he wins, then he just locks up the 3 seed, which could be very beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to love that too, because having to rely on other things to happen is always the worst feeling. But being able to go out, take care of business, and get the win and secure that for yourself has to feel good for Trent. So if he can go out and get it done, I mean, that's a 3 seed. And, there's a lot to say about locking up that spot. So on to number 5 here. We do have the Crumb Bums, and while they're still in the top 5 in the power rankings, they could very well be taking a trip to the consolation bracket. It is win and get in their next game against the Mad Ants. And it's losing, you're onto the ladder. Like, who would have thought that this team would be in this position after the stretch of wins that he pulled off there in the middle of the season?
Yeah, certainly not me. It's shocking to see him drop this far, and it's been a rough couple of weeks for the Crumb Bums, but still got a chance. Win and get in. Just got to hope they can stop this losing streak and get back on track and just get into the dance. Just get into the playoffs. It really sucked to see Chuck lose this and move on to the consolation ladder. But that's fantasy football for you.
I mean, that's just the way it goes. And I'll tell you what, if you want to talk about just the way she goes, that brings us to number 6 here. The Ogama Do You Jobbers, still sitting nice and pretty behind the number 1 and the number 2 seed in points for. I mean, a great offensive season. Unfortunately, those just didn't translate to wins. And so right now I am on the outside looking in. I have to win this week, and I need the Sliders to upset the Dust Balls. That's my only chance of getting in. Mudge and I did split our head-to-head, so if we do end the season in a tie, it will come down to points for, where I do have a pretty comfortable lead, and I'm pretty confident in saying if he loses and I win, I would have the points for advantage. So, I got to win. I got to go out and take care of business. But I'll tell you what, I talked to Justin the other day, and, I asked him, I said, Justin, like, do you think Lightning can strike twice here? And I told him there's nobody else in the entire league that I would want to play Mudge other than him, because he knows what it's like. He had that 2018 season, 5-8, snuck into the playoffs, won it all. So he knows what it's like to be in my position. And I told him, Justin, I said, we're going to recreate history. So, pretty damn excited for week 14, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I hope to see you in the playoffs. It's been a rough year for you with the points allowed. Maybe we'll do a little fun segment next week. Maybe we'll see what the league how they would have fared with your schedule. We can save that for next week, but still got a chance week 14, which is all you can ask for, especially with the position you're at 3-4 weeks ago. But sucks it also has to have another person lose in order for you to get in. So got a shot though. Moving down though to the number 7 spot, we got the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. Great win over my squad this past week. We've been saying it all year. One of the most inconsistent teams in the league. Seems like they're starting to get a little more consistent, a little more points scored the past couple of weeks, but pretty easy situation that he's in for the playoffs. Win and get in versus the Crumb Bums. Losing, it's onto the ladder.
Yeah, and this is an awesome one because Jake's been so up and down this year that seeing him get in the playoffs would be awesome, because I don't know, I'd have to check the league history, but have Jake and Mark ever played in the playoffs? Like, I don't know, like imagine a Mauser Bowl championship. I know it wouldn't be ideal for you and me, but man, it would be awesome for the league if somehow those two wound up in the championship. So huge week for Mauser, obviously. Win, you're in the playoffs, lose, and you're in the consolation. So not much else to say other than, I mean, the biggest week of the year for both him and Chuck, and maybe game of the week. Has to be game of the week, right?
That has to be game of the week. I don't know what our matchup would be, but yeah, it should be a great matchup. But moving on to the 8th spot, we got the Denver Dust Balls. This is a team midway through the season we thought was surefire number 2 seed for the Maroon Division. A couple injuries, one to Burrow, and Dust Balls find themselves in a sticky situation here, but their fate still rests in their hands. A win versus Sliders, and they're on to the playoffs. A loss, they still might be on, but a loss and a Ogama Do You Jobbers win, Dust Balls are in the consolation ladder.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been on a little skid, and I think Burrow going down is really tough, but he does have Fields, and Fields has the capability to put up big numbers. So, like you said, it's all up to him, and if he can go out and get a win, he doesn't have to worry about the result of my game. He can lock up that 3 seed in the Maroon Division. He can send me packing and get me looking forward to next season. So I think he's still in a good spot, even though his team hasn't been performing the best as of late. I think he's still in a great spot, and I'll tell you what, I would trade him spots 10 times out of 10. So, I think even though he is at the 8, I think his team, could very well make a run in the playoffs. So,
yeah, definitely
curious to see how his game goes this week. But on to number 9, in the first of our 2 officially eliminated teams, the Golden Taint Warriors. He's been putting up some good performances here in the last couple weeks. Unfortunately, like you said earlier, just too little, too late.
Yeah, unfortunate. It just he worked off his championship hangover just a little too late. Probably should have been taking some Motrin, drinking some water before bed, but he opted to wait until mid-morning lunchtime the next day and cost them a chance in the playoffs. But, you know, a lot of big records coming from the gold division. So it was going to be tough to sneak in there. It's always next year.
Yeah. And I mean, someone should have got him some Pedialyte for Christmas or something, because that championship hangover lasted a little bit too long. And unfortunately, you know, now it's try to make a run in the consolation bracket and don't finish last. And the same is to be said about, you know, number 10 here, the Southside Silly Sliders. Unfortunately, it just wasn't their year. And that's all you can say. They just, you know, he drafted what we thought to be a really solid team. And for some reason, the guys just didn't mesh. So not a ton to play for Justin in a sense of, you know, his accomplishments, but what he can do is play spoiler for the Dust Balls and maybe help out the Do You Jobbers a little bit. So not a meaningless game that he has coming up in week 14, but nonetheless, he does find himself eliminated from the playoffs and not a ton to play for from his standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, or you said it perfectly. But he does have the chance to play spoiler, so at least he has something. I don't know how he feels about Mudge. I'm not sure if he likes you or Mudge more. That might play a factor into his start-sit decisions if he really wants to beat Mudge, or if he wants to maybe, you know, make some bad starts, poor players, let Mudge sneak into the playoffs. I will find out this week. Looking forward to it, though. And I mean, your season rests in the Sliders' hands.
It does. Justin, I'm counting on you, baby. Oh, man. But on to next week's matchups. The first being yourself and the Golden State Warriors. Not a ton going on here. You're locked up in your spot. Josh is eliminated. I mean, what's your thought process going into this game?
My thought process is we can move on to the next matchup. Neither team has anything to play for here. This matchup means absolutely nothing. Let's move on to our game of the week, which is the Mad Ants versus the Crumb Bums. I mean, winning it in for both squads. Tale of two stories, or a tale of two seasons, really. I mean, the Crumb Bums came on. They've been very hot recently up until the past 2 weeks. And Mad Ants, inconsistent all year, but starting to heat up at the right time. And I mean, it all comes down to this week 14 matchup. I remember before the season, I was helping you make the schedule out, make sure everyone played each other twice in division and whatnot. And this is one of the matches we came up with week 14, hoping that it would have some playoff implications. And I mean, it delivered.
Yeah, sure enough. Like, the only thing I think that could be better is, you know, keeping this game and then having one in the maroon where, you know, maybe Mudge and I was playing. That would have been ideal. Yeah, it would have been cool with 2 winning get-ins. But regardless, even having one is awesome. Like, after 13 weeks of fantasy football, having it all come down to one game for the Mad Ants and for the Crumb Bombs is going to be awesome. So I know both of them have to be a little bit nervous. I mean, I know I am, so I'm sure they are too. Yeah. It's going to be an awesome game. I can't wait.
Yeah, definitely. Move on to our next matchup, though. This one doesn't really mean much in terms of playoff implications, maybe some seeding implications for one of the teams, but we got Lynx football team taking on Turn Your Head in Golf. Mentioned earlier, Ashton, 1 seed, locked up, 3-point buffer throughout the playoffs, locked up. Trent, though, if he gets a win this week, then he locks up the overall number 3 seed, which would mean 3-point buffer for round 1. So he's still playing for something. Ashton, on the other hand, not really playing for much.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe the people hate it, but I'll tell you, this would be a meaningless game had a 3-point buffer not been implemented. And now Trent has a reason to go out and to get a win, because if he can, you know, he's gonna have maybe a matchup or two with that 3-point buffer. So, you know, it could be a big game for him, and a win would lock up that 3 seed for him. So, you know, definitely something to play for there on Trent's side. Ashton, on the other hand, yeah, he can kind of just coast into.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to our next matchup, though, we got the Dust Balls taking on the Silly Sliders. I mean, we alluded to it earlier. This is an important matchup for you. You need the Sliders to play spoiler. Dust Balls need to just take care of business, get a win, and they're in. For your sake, hopefully the Sliders can make some magic happen.
Yeah, I think we already said everything that needed to be said about this game. We know the stakes. I mean, if the Dust Balls can take care of business, they're in the playoffs, and so that's a good spot for them to be in. For Justin, you know, we'll see what kind of performance he brings. Maybe he wants, you know, one last run of, you know, pride and wants to show that he's not just giving up on the season, even though he knows he's out of the postseason. So we know what's on the line here. And we also know what's on the line here with our next matchup with the Ogama Jobbers and Mark's Flying Circus. I mean, Mark, I guess he's fighting for possibly some seeding if he can get a win and some other games can go in his favor. For me, it's an absolute must win. If I lose, I'm out. If I win, I have a chance. So, everything's at stake for me. Mark, feeling a little bit more comfortable there, locked up in the 2 spot in the division.
Yeah, this is gonna be an exciting matchup. In your season, it all comes down to this. All comes down to this 1 week. Hopefully, for your sake, they're able to get the job done. But guess we'll have to find out. I don't know. Do you have any players playing on Monday night? I'm curious to see if this matchup is going to come down to Monday night.
I'll have to look, and I hope that I do, because I've had 2 huge wins on Monday Night Football. One against Trent, and then one against Mudge, actually, where I think Danny Dimes got strip sacked on the last play of the game, which actually gave me the win over Mudge by half a point. Had that play not happened, I wouldn't have a chance. I'd be out. I'd be eliminated. So one strip sack of Danny Dimes is what keeps me in the hunt. I don't know. Do you have the schedule or the matchup up there? Any Monday night players there?
So none of your players are. Mark, though, he has Derrick Henry and Devon Achan.
Yeah.
Both them playing Monday night. So hopefully you have a comfortable lead, because those are 2 players that can pop off. And then in the Dust Balls Sliders game, I mean, the Dust Balls have Waddle going on Monday night, and the Sliders are going to have Saquon, possibly Christian Watson if he plays. So there's going to be a lot of players playing. I was hoping maybe it would come down to where there's only one player. Maybe yours and Mark's matchup is settled. You found out you won Sunday night, and then Monday night comes down to the Dust Balls and Sliders matchup. But fortunately, that's not the case. But we'll still be watching Monday Night Football with a lot of very good fantasy players playing. It looks like there's actually a doubleheader. I was wondering why there were so many players.
What about the Mad Ants and Crumb Bums? What does that Monday night schedule look like? That could come down to maybe
that's a good point.
Maybe a player or 2 as well.
Oh, yeah. Crumb Bums don't have anyone as of right now in their lineup that plays Monday, but the Mad Ants have Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, and Nick Folk. So 3 players going Monday night for the Mad Ants. So that'll be an exciting matchup to watch.
Man, I'm nervous already. I'm getting butterflies, but all right. Anyways, that wraps it up. It's going to be an awesome week 14. We want to transition quickly over to the very last guest appearance of the regular season. We've had this guy on once. It was really early on, and curious to see how things have changed, if the perspective has shifted at all. I'm really excited. So without further ado, let's kick it over to the interview. All right, everybody. Well, you know what time it is. It's time for the best, not only player in the league, but the best part of the podcast. Here we have the number 1 seed in the entire league, Mr. Ashton Lang. I mean, it's been what week is it? 14. I think we had you on week 2, right? You were on early. So it's been about 12 weeks. That's a lot of time for a lot of matchups, a lot of fantasy football. Ashton, welcome back. How are you feeling? Are you feeling any different than you did on the show there week 2?
A little bit more confident, team actually started playing how I thought they were going to play. So they stuck to what they were going to do, and what I thought they were going to do, and I'm looking well. A little ups and downs, a little injuries on the way, but hey, number 1 seed, can't complain.
So let me just take a step back here. So you were on here week 2, and you just said now your team is playing how you thought they were going to play, like you didn't start 8-0. Was it 8-0? Am I wrong there?
7 or 8, yeah. But I had a little skid there where it looked pretty scary. Had a bunch of injuries, but everyone, I think right now we're playing our best ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be hard to argue against that. I think this past week you took the crown for the leading scorer in the week. That was the one thing I had over you this whole season, but you finished strong and you took it from me. And I just noticed this, but you actually had the least amount of moves made out of anyone in the league. So Hey, bravo to you at the draft. You drafted a great team, stuck with them, and I mean, you're the number 1 seed. So congrats on that.
Appreciate that. I actually did look at that because usually I like to play like I'm going to grab the top guy off the waiver wire here and there, try to stay consistent on who I'm trying to pick up, looking for the next breakout guy. But this year, it's kind of hard to look in the waiver wire and just see someone I want to drop off my roster. I felt like I had a pretty good roster the whole year.
I'm about to say there's no bench spots, there's no openings on your team. I mean, guys, how does it feel to have Tyreek Hill on your team? I mean, the dude every week is getting a bonus touchdown. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's same thing as probably the same feeling it has McCaffrey. It's an automatic 25 every week. Usually.
It's crazy. I remember, so this past week when Tyreek had that long one, sure enough, Ashton sends the peace sign and I'm sitting there watching Red Zone and I see Tyreek bust off another one. I'm like, oh, here we go. Just throws in the double peace sign. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. So yeah, so let me ask you this then on the topic of Tyreek Hill. Some are saying that Lang's football team are Tyreek Hill merchants. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you have a solid team around him? Say he was to go down, do you think you can win without him?
I mean, it's gonna be tough. That's the best player in fantasy football, debatably, and it would be close. I mean, I think my roster is well rounded. I think Aaron Jones coming back from injury to a good Packers team. I think he's gonna trying to get that workload that he had the last year. He's always been a top fantasy running back in the years past, so I can put him in the flex, and I think DJ Moore with a healthy Justin Fields is a great receiver to have too. I would be comfortable starting him every week, but Mike Evans is just so hot, man. It's hard to bench Mike Evans. He's playing the best football of his career, year 10, so it's like you gotta almost ride the hot hand. Same thing like with Hunter with Mostert. Guys, 31, 32. You can't even like bench him. He scores every week. It's like, wow, am I going to leave 15 points on my bench, or am I going to try something different? But you can't.
Now I'm gonna step in real quick and defend Ashton here. My co-host Noah, you said that he may be a Tyreek Hill merchant, but Tyreek Hill was drafted in the 2nd round, so that means every single person in this league passed on him. So, I mean, he's a merchant, but everyone had a chance to draft him. So, it's the league's fault for letting him fall into Ashton's hands.
Yeah, I mean, Ashton was. It's not like he was gifted Tyreek Hill. He waited his turn, and a lot of people had a chance to take him, and no one did. So, I mean,
you drafted another receiver over him. Who was it?
Cooper Kupp.
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles when, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback go down on the first drive and be out for the season. It's, it's just unlucky. And, you draft a different guy in the first round who, has had some of the best fantasy football seasons ever. And all of a sudden he's on the IR to start the year and they have a rookie receiver who now looks like a top 10 receiver in the league. It's just sometimes the dominoes don't fall your way and that's okay. Yep. But with that said, I mean, Ashton, great pick with Tyreek, and who knows, he could lead you to a championship, which brings us to this quote. So Hunter and I were doing a little digging. We watched back the podcast from week 2, and this is what you said verbatim: better be ready because I think this is my year. I mean, do you still stand by those words?
I do. I think I'm in the driver's seat, and I think it might be destiny. I don't know. Year 10. Let's make it a good one. If I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down swinging. I want to go down my way. No John Brown bullshit.
I respect it. I mean, your team looks tough, and you have yourself a bye week 1, and then for the rest of the playoffs, you do have a slight advantage finishing as the number 1 overall seed with the 3-point advantage. I mean, with that on top of having what is probably the best team in the league, do you feel like it at this point is your championship to lose?
I mean, being the number 1 seed, I would say so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, anyone can get hot any other week, but I think I'm one of the best teams out there, and the expectation is to win it all, I've been the basically number one team all year. It's almost just season to failure if I don't get it done.
Yeah, coming from someone who used to be in the conversation for having the best team in the league, I'm gonna be honest. Your team clears my team, and I know we wouldn't face until the championship if that happens. But I'm nervous as hell for that game, especially with you having a 3-point advantage. I don't see it happening. Your team is. You got a good squad. I think you have the number one seed for a reason. And,
easy on the early GGs. I don't want to hear that this early.
This might be the earliest GG
we've like seen. 3 weeks in advance.
A month early GG. I don't like that.
I had to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Do whatever it takes.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think Ashton needs any buffers because the 2 times I faced him this year, he went for 170 and 160. So Ashton, you score all the points that you need. You don't need any help. But I do.
I'm begging for Milford to make playoffs. I just need my team to bring it.
It's hard to beat somebody 3 times, baby. It's hard to beat somebody 3 times.
I think every time I play Noah, I got a 3-kill bomb.
Hey, that's every week, to be fair.
Yeah.
Another thing we found from back in our earlier pod with you, your first interview, you gave us a Maroon playoff prediction. And I got to say, you were right on. I mean, at that point, we were only 1 week into the season, only 1 week of data, but you had yourself finishing number 1, Mudge at 2, Mark at 3. I mean, you switch those around. I mean, those are all 3 right now in the playoffs. And then Noah and Justin at the bottom. I mean, this isn't even a question, but just a bravo to you. Great prediction. Hopefully though, Noah can sneak in and
would be fun.
It would be fun.
Little spoiler. I'm down for anything.
I'd love to get another crack at you. I'll be honest. I don't think it's going to happen, but the thing is I put up 2 pretty solid weeks when I played you too. I think I went for 150, which was my highest output of the year, and I lost. And then I think 2 weeks ago I put up like 100 or like 110 or something, but nothing compared to your 150. But hey, 3rd time's the charm. When you said after our first matchup, I don't know, weeks ago, you said, I just wanted to show you I am the one who knocks. Hey, that stuck with me all year, and it would be. I wouldn't want it any other way than to get another crack at you. I don't know if it's going to happen. Most likely not, but who knows? I mean, to be the best, you got to beat the best, and that's you right now.
If you do sneak in, I gotta say you would be facing off against you'd be the 6th seed face off against the 3 seed. Then I believe you would have to go through me and then get to Ashton in the finals.
You'd have to go
I don't know if I can let that happen.
That's a devastating road. I don't think we can make it through. We're gonna
just to see who's still knocking.
Yeah, the Loch Ness Monster in Ogama Lake is gonna take me under before we can get all the way to the championship. I don't know if we can get it done, but yeah, I mean, we honestly don't have too much for you just because there's not much to ask with you having the number 1 team all year long. Like, yeah, the power rankings got mixed up here and there. I don't know what.
Yeah, I think someone spilled coffee and I'm awake and they were just like trying to fucking scatter them over.
They were throwing shit together and but honestly, I do feel like you've had the number 1 team all year long. Hunter, anything else you wanna ask to get inside the mind of what it's like to be the overall number 1 team in the D League?
I wish I was in your shoes, but I'm just gonna let you have the floor. Let the league know your thoughts. This is where you gave us last time the better be ready because I think this is my year. The floor is yours.
Just best time of the year, the final week of before playoffs, or just kind of seeing how everyone's team's going. Got an exciting week. I like the do or die game coming with Mauser and Chuck. Chuck's team's kind of like the Vikings. Like, oh, they're shitty. And like, oh, they might be good. They might be good. And like, oh,
they're shitty.
I don't know what's happening.
He's followed them this whole season.
Yeah,
they got Dobbs with them too. I don't know.
It is, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm hoping it's going to be a good playoff run for everyone, and let the best man be on top.
Love it. Well, hey, maybe we'll have you back here in 4 weeks. Oh my God, someone just like jumped above me and it just shook the whole room. But anyways, maybe we'll have you back here in 4 weeks. And I mean, maybe you'll have that trophy there on the wall behind you. So, best of luck to you. Thanks again for coming on. Always a pleasure to talk, and best of luck this playoff run. Crossing my fingers that I see you. Don't think it's going to happen, but I'll be pulling for you, Ashton. Honestly, decade season of the D League, you've been through it all, and it would be great not only to see the Maroon division get one, but for you to get your first. So best of luck in the playoffs, sir.
Appreciate it, guys.
First of luck to you from me, by the way.
Till the championship. Then it's bad luck for me.
Love
I
it.
hope to see you there.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's get back over. We'll finish out this podcast, and best of luck to you, Ashton, to you, Hunter, and to everyone else here in week 14. Peace.
All right. Another great interview. Little dive inside the mind of what it feels like to enter the playoffs, knowing that you have an extra 3 points every single week. We'll see if Ashton's able to get the job done for his first ring. And, I just thought of this, but this would actually be my first ring too. So the top 2 seeds are playing for a chance at their first ring ever. And Trent's locked in the playoffs and he hasn't won. So, some fresh blood.
Mark hasn't won either.
Mark hasn't won. Okay. Jake, I don't think Jake has. So if Jake ends up being Chuck.
Yeah, it could be.
And
I haven't
knew if you get in over Mudge, then it could be all players who haven't.
It's possible. Could be 6. Could be 6 players who have never attended Champions Dinner. So I mean,
yeah.
Wow, how exciting! What a time to be alive. But with that said, I know this is long per usual. Sorry.
Of course.
Sorry, not sorry. It's fun. We enjoy it, and man, I couldn't ask for a better finish to the regular season. This is going to be awesome. So. Thank you to everybody. Oh,
this
go ahead.
does not end our episodes. We still will be putting out episodes during the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Probably no off-season episodes, but we'll see. Keep it going. Next week we'll still have an episode. I think we're gonna do switch it up. We're probably run through the recaps and then a little playoff preview, but probably no power rankings, and maybe throw in some new segments that are for the playoffs and to recap what's been an awesome year.
Yeah, we actually have a cool segment coming up next week that you guys will want to stay tuned for. It'll be fun. It'll be a little bit different than anything we've really ever done in the D League. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. We'll get you out of here, and best of luck to everyone in their upcoming matchups this week. Peace.
Yep. Oh, and go blue.
Trent, cut that part. Peace, y'all.